right, last one on this. We're talking about these three methods. We did show message dialog, which just shows a message. We did show confirm dialog, which allows us to type yes or no. Now this last one, I'm going to comment this stuff out here. Number F8 is to comment, is to get rid of that stuff. You still have it there so I can reference it for you. But how am I going to do this now? Let's make another one. So JOptionPane again. And no, it is the name of the class used to be called OptionPane. It's called JOptionPane because it's part of the Java X.Swing package. So the new one, so all the classes in Java X.Swing will start with a J. I don't know. JOptionPane show input dialog. These are all things that you can put down in your notes so you have them. Show input dialog. I'm still going to pass a null, and this time I'm going to say how. Or actually, enter in your amount of money. I don't know. Well, yeah. Okay, so what does that do? That shows a dialog box. So if I'm just going to compile this really quick again and run it. And so this was... The difference on this one is what does this dialog box look like? So notice this dialog, it is not just showing a message. It's showing the message that I typed in. It still has all the other stuff. It has an OK and a cancel button, but it gives me this text box to be able to type something in. So I can say, you know, I have $27.53 and click OK, but nothing happens again. So why did nothing happen is because I didn't do with anything. They didn't do anything with what they typed in that text field. So now I have to realize that there must be, we go back and remember those other notes, there was a return type for JOptionPane, so there must be, or excuse me, show message dialog box, there's a return type, so there must be a return type for show input dialog. So I'm going to run to the API again, this idea of always checking out the API. So Control F, I'm going to say show input dialog. Oh, I'm in the wrong class. Woofda. What am I in here? Here we go. Hopefully this is it. Yes. Show input dialog. We'll click over here. Oh, there we go. Here it is. Show input dialog. It has a bunch of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. Holy cow! It's overloaded. Do you remember those terms of overloading? A method with the same name with different types of parameters, or order of parameters, or number of parameters is overloaded. So this one has 2 parameters. This one has 3, and we got 4. We got lots of them. We're just going to use this basic one. But the cool thing that we're going to look at right now is this word string. It's still static. That's why we use JOptionPane to call it. But it returns a string. So what happens is whatever you type in that text box, it returns whatever you put in there as a string and stores it. So if I go look at this, now I realize that to use this thing, I'm going to store whatever they type in into a string. So I say string, and then I say value or something like that. So now I just captured whatever they typed in. This is almost identical to me saying system.out.println, enter in the amount of money, and then I have an object of the scanner class maybe called scan, and I say scan.nextLine, and it scans it, and then I store it into a variable. We've been doing that without GUIs, but now we can ask somebody for something and store it using a nice little window or a nice little GUI window. But now we want to do something with this. So we say if value is greater than $100, we say you are rich. Now, how do we, instead of system.out.println you are rich, we have this JOptionPane. We just keep this message dialog. We just keep using this thing instead of system.out.println. So, okay, here we would just say you are rich. And then we would say else, if they don't have over $100, then we say you are poor or something. I don't know. Or we just say sorry. Sorry. Or you don't have enough money to buy this or whatever. I mean, it's a credit card. You don't have enough on your balance. We got all these wonderful things. We could ask them for their ID number and say, oh, that's not a valid one. I mean, endless amount of opportunities to be able to use this, but just as a quick thing. So they're going to enter in the amount of money. It'll get stored into value. If value is greater than 100, I show another one, you are rich. Otherwise, I say sorry. So I compile this. All right, what do we got here? Bad up. Ooh. It says string second half int. So value is a string, and it looks like I'm trying to compare a string to an int. So the error message that Blue Jay has given me is actually pretty good. It doesn't like that value is a string, and I'm like, oh, that's right. I told them to enter in their amount of money, but then I thought it was an int. But there must be one that returns an int. But if you look at all of these methods, none of them, these overload show return an int or a double, and really the amount of money would be a double, so none of these are going to work because they all return strings. So how do I get it to change whatever they typed in? It only lets me type in strings. Remember the scanner class, I could say next int, next double, next line, be able to get an int, a double, or a string. I can only get strings, so I'm kind of screwed here. So what am I going to do? So I'm going to go back and we got to learn some other things about wrapper classes. So after we get this value, I'm going to say double x equals double dot parse double. I'm going to pass the value. And first of all, I just wanted to make sure that works, so I'm still getting this error message here. We want to talk about what does this line of code do. So you look at professional code, and you're like, what did you just do? All right, well, if I read this, there must be a class called double, because it starts with a capital D. There must be a method called parse double, because it starts with a lowercase letter, ends in parentheses, and it must accept a string, because I passed value, and value was a string. So there's a parse double method in the double class that accepts a string. Now I'm just going to explain this. Double is a class in Java. It's a wrapper class. The whole purpose of the double class is to take primitive doubles, which is this type of double right here, lowercase d, and wrap them. That's primitive. That's not an object type. And wrap them into objects. And we have talked about this before, how there's wrapper classes and how they wrap them in. So this wrapper class must have a static method called parse double. And when you parse something, it's like you're changing it. It's almost like a cast, but it's not a cast, but it's like changing it to whatever I tell it. So if I say parse double, it's trying to take whatever I put in here as a string and parse it to a double that's primitive. I mean, this is awesome. So you need to like write that down. There's also one in the integer class. So if I was doing this with an integer, I'd say int y equals integer dot parse. This one's used a lot more often. Parse int, and I would pass a value in there. And so there's a parse int method in the integer class as well. So you go look for it in the API that accepts a string, and it converts it to an int. So really what we've learned is that there's a way to convert strings to ints as long as the strings actually are ints or doubles. And we're going to deal with that here in a second. But there's also a character.parseChar and a boolean.parse boolean as well. So all the primitive types have wrapper classes, and there's parse methods that take strings and convert them to their primitive types. So what I can do now, and this line of code I don't need, I just wanted to show you that it also works for ints. Instead of putting value here, I can put x here. If x is greater than 100, so notice, it wouldn't let me compare a string to 100, but I took the string value and I converted it or parsed it to an actual primitive double, and then I can check if it's greater than 100. I mean, that's a really cool method, something you're going to use a lot, but you have to understand this showInputDialog, or this showInputDialog doesn't allow you to say, oh, are they typing in ints or doubles or chars? It doesn't allow you to change the return type. It's always going to be a string, but then you can convert it to what you want it to be. So if I compile this now, hopefully I get you are the best. It doesn't say I have any syntax errors. So let's try to run it. Oops, sorry. All right, so I type in $27.56 and say OK, and it says sorry. Remember, it's saying sorry because it wasn't over $27.56. So now I test it again because I'm testing my code. I'm a good student that tests my code for all the situations. $105. You are rich. Yes. What else should I test? I check something under 100. I check something over 100. Oh, I know. A border case, 100. Now, the way I wrote the code, it said if it's greater than 100, you are rich. If you're less than 100, it should be no. So 100 should show. Anyone? Anyone? Yes. Should say sorry because it's not greater than 100. I feel like Dora, I'm blinking, and you're answering questions with nobody here. All right. What about this, though? Please enter the amount of money, and I say 300. Okay, so I don't understand. I don't understand that I'm supposed to type in a double or just numbers actually key. I thought you wanted the words because it wasn't very explicit. So I type in 300 like so, and I click OK, and it blows up at runtime, which is called an exception. It's a java.lang.number format exception, because here's the problem. 300 came into value, the string 300, and then it tried to parse the string 300 into an actual double. It can't do that. It's like, I can't. So the parse double and the parse int method, they only parse things that are actually doubles or ints. They will not parse words. If somebody typed in dog right there, it just wouldn't work. They can't parse it, so it blows up at runtime. Instead of having it blow up at runtime, the next video is going to show you how to catch these exceptions. But that's a very basic one right there. I wanted to give that to you. In the next video, I'll show you how to catch exceptions so they don't blow up the program, which is really quite cool, and you want to watch that.